Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. It is once again time for another overdue installment of the ABCs of Transformers. But if you haven't been to my channel before and don't know what this series is, hi, my name's Jax. And in this series, the ABCs of Transformers, we go over all the vocabulary and terminology of the Transformers franchise. And today we will be covering a bunch of the official creators, artists, and authors within the Transformers franchise. Please note, this is absolutely not going to be everything and everyone who has ever been involved within the Transformers franchise. That's simply a freaking impossible task. TFWiki has already done it. You should totally go check out TFWiki, by the way. Wonderful Transformers learning resource. More so, what we will be going over in this video is a bunch of the names, authors, artists, and other creatives whose names appear most frequently within the fan base. However, I do have one exception to this rule, and that is that I'm covering definitely a good chunk of the Generation 1 cast, as I do believe it is generally important that we keep information of the original roots of things alive and give credit where it's due. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alex Milne. Alex Milne is one of the most influential Transformers comic artists throughout the franchise. He is best well known for his work as primary artist on the comic Transformers More Than Meets the Eye from IDW Publishing, but originally began his Transformers comic art journey with Dreamwave Productions. Many, such as myself today, have taken a huge amount of inspiration from Alex Milne's work, especially known for its high level of detail. Alex Milne also provided many illustrations and comic art for other series within IDW Publishing, such as Megatron Origins and the Drift miniseries. Bob Budiansky. Another one of the most influential names within the Transformers franchise. Bob Budiansky was the original author for most of the Marvel US Transformers comics, responsible for creating much of the lore and mythos that is known today within the Transformers franchise, including the Matrix of Leadership. Bob Budiansky was also responsible for naming some of the original Transformers, such as Megatron, the Dinobots, and Wheeljack. Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem was the original voice actor for Cliffjumper, Blue Streak, and Teletran 1 in the original Generation 1 cartoon. Chris Latta. Chris Latta is lovingly remembered as the original voice for Starscream in the Generation 1 cartoon, having originated the iconic screechy voice that this well-beloved menace still uses today. Chris Latta, alongside Starscream, also voiced Wheeljack in the original cartoon. Corey Burton. Corey Burton was the original voice actor for Shockwave and Sunstreaker in the G1 cartoon. He later reprised his role as Shockwave in Transformers Animated, also providing the voice work for Megatron and Ratchet. Corey is particularly one of my favorite voice actors. He is an insanely talented voice actor to have voiced these three insanely different voices within Transformers Animated. I think that also might just be because I have a bit of bias towards TFA, as I did grow up with it as a kid. But these three are some of my favorite voices in the franchise. Dan Gilvezan. Is he still alive? I have to actually genuinely check that some of these people are still alive. I'm like, oh, who's died? Guys, some of them are really old. This franchise has been here for at least 40 years, and these guys were all like, I think in their 30s when they were voicing Transformers, so they're old. Yeah, he's still alive. Okay. Slay. Dan Gilvezan was the original voice actor for Bumblebee and Goldbug in the original Generation 1 cartoon. Darren Norris. Darren Norris is one of the most beloved voice actors in the franchise, best known for his voice work as Knockout in Transformers Prime, a character which later went on to become not only a queer icon, but one of the most popular characters in the franchise. And something which I think is also ironic and cool to know is that Knockout became an eventually canonically queer character within the Transformers franchise, appearing with his partner Breakdown in IDW Publishing's Christmas Extra, and later getting an on-screen kiss in IDW Publishing's second run of Transformers comics, once again with his partner, Breakdown. Darren Norris, of whom, later on in life, came out as gay, which I think is just something so iconic to have this character and this voice actor kind of reflect each other in these ways. By the way, I learned that information from one of my lovely mutuals, Torbs, over on places like Instagram and TikTok, who is currently doing a series on the LGBT people involved within the Transformers franchise, featuring a new LGBT creative every day for Pride Month. You should 100% go check it out. This is actually where I learned that Darren Norris was gay himself. Their series is insanely informative and super fun to learn about if you're a huge queer Transformers fan like I am. Also, happy Pride Month! David K. David Kaye is another extremely well-beloved voice actor within the Transformers franchise, best known for voicing Megatron in Beast Wars and the Unicron trilogy. His vocal work as Beast Wars Megatron is especially well remembered due to the iconic line, "Yes!" a line that every single Transformers fan knows by heart. David Kaye also voiced Optimus Prime in Transformers Animated. Derek J. Wyatt. Derek J. Wyatt is fondly remembered as the creative and artistic director behind Transformers Animated. He was a huge driving force behind Transformers Animated, this series being one of his favorites to work on as a longtime Transformers fan himself. A series he continued to work on even after its cancellation and up to his death in 2021, having shared many episode ideas and shattered glass color variations made in his spare time. Derek J. Wyatt today is still considered one of the most highly regarded creatives and artists within the franchise, especially with how influential TFA wound up being to not only people like myself, but even other creatives in the franchise who have continued to work on Transformers to this day. Don Messick. Don Messick was the original voice for Ratchet and Gears in the Generation 1 cartoon. Dreamwave Productions. Dreamwave Productions was an independent publishing company who held the Transformers comic license from 2001 to 2005. In spite of initial excitement over new Transformers comics, which hadn't been done since the original Marvel comics, in 2005 Dreamwave Productions declared bankruptcy after it had been found out that they hadn't been paying their artists. This is also notably the studio that Alex Milne worked for before going into the IDW comics. Mans has been through it. I think on the TFWiki page, when you look up Dreamwave Productions and Alex Milne's page specifically, it's something like he's owed $16,000 still to this day by Dreamwave Productions, which he's never received a penny of. It's really fucking tragic. Frank Welker. Frank Welker is best known today as the original voice for Megatron from the G1 cartoon, having reprised his role many times over in series such as TFP, Transformers Devastation, and Transformers The Last Knight. He has also provided voice work for a plethora of other characters, including Soundwave, Skywarp, Galvatron, Rumble, and Ravage. Gary Chalk. Gary Chalk is best known for his voice work as Optimus Primal in Beast Wars and Optimus Prime in the Unicron trilogy. Certain Unicron trilogy fans such as myself might know this iconic line, "Our worlds are in danger!" I believe that's from the opening to Energon or Cybertron. Greg Berger. Greg Berger is the original voice actor for Grimlock and Skyfire in the Generation 1 cartoon. This man apparently has a thing for playing gentle giants. Whether or not you can call Grimlock an actual gentle giant, that might just be me projecting on him a little bit. Hasbro. Hasbro is the current IP holder, alongside Takara Tomy, of the Transformers franchise, being one of the original creatives to bring Transformers to life. Hasbro also owns other popular franchise titles such as My Little Pony and G.I. Joe, of which often feature crossovers within the Transformers franchise. IDW Comics. IDW Publishing is an American publishing company, best known for publishing some of the most well-beloved Transformers comics within the franchise. IDW Publishing is also the publishing company that held the Transformers comic license for the longest time within the franchise, for 17 years from 2005 till 2022. IDW Publishing is also well known for bringing many of the creative names we know and love today into the limelight, such as Nick Roche and James Roberts. Jack Angel. Jack Angel was the original voice actor for Ultra Magnus in the G1 cartoon. He also provided voice work for other characters in the cartoon such as Astrotrain, Cyclonus, and Smokescreen. Jack Lawrence. Another well-beloved IDW comic artist within the fanbase, Jack Lawrence is best known for his work as primary artist on Lost Light. James Roberts. James Roberts, I would say in my personal opinion, is one of the most influential creatives within the modern day fanbase. Best known as being the author for Transformers More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light. He was also the primary author for Phase 3 of IDW Publishing's first phase of Transformers comics, and is likely the big name responsible for bringing Transformers back into the limelight with the modern day fanbase. Today, he is still fairly active within the Transformers fanbase, often confirming silly pieces of fan theory or selling his notes and scripts on the comics he worked on while with IDW Publishing. I highly recommend checking out his profile, as he recently sold the notebooks for More Than Meets the Eye, of which contain some never-before-seen content and information about the makings of More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light. He's also been hinting at doing a similar thing for the Chaos Theory issues, which I'm personally keeping an eye on as a Megot fan. John Stevenson. John Stevenson was the original voice actor for characters such as Cup, Thundercracker, Alpha Trion, and many others from the G1 cartoon. Judd Nelson. Most people might know him from The Breakfast Club, but to us Transformers fans, Judd Nelson is the original voice actor for Hot Rod in the G1 movie. He later reprised this role in Transformers Animated as a cameo. Ken Samson. Ken Sansom was the original voice actor for Hound in the G1 cartoon. Leonard Nimoy. Sci-fi legend Leonard Nimoy, best known as Spock from Star Trek, was also involved within the Transformers franchise, originally voicing Galvatron in the Generation 1 movie, and later returning to work with the Transformers franchise as Sentinel Prime in Transformers Dark of the Moon. Maycat. Maycat is an American screenwriter best known for their work on series such as War for Cybertron, Cyberverse, and Transformers Earthspark. Within particularly my side of the fandom, Maycat is known for writing some of the most well-beloved Starscream episodes, such as What Dwells Within from Earthspark Season 1. Marguerite Scott. Marguerite Scott was the first woman to write a Transformers comic within the franchise, that comic being Transformers Windblade, of which was also the first introduction for the character Windblade, who became a long-standing character within the franchise. Marguerite Scott also wrote for Till All Are One. Marlene Aragon. Firstly, what a baller name, Aragon! I love that. But Marlene Aragon was the original voice actress for Elita 1 in the Generation 1 cartoon. Marvel. Marvel was the original IP holder for the Transformers comic license, publishing the very first Transformers comics from 1984 till 1991. Marvel also worked in association on some of the live-action Transformers films. Michael Bay. Michael Bay was the director for the first 5 Transformers live-action films, and after his departure as director from the live-action series, he still continues to produce on other live-action films such as Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. And like I've covered in previous episodes, depending on which side of the fandom you're in, Michael Bay is either deeply loved or deeply loathed. Michael Bell. Michael Bell was the original voice actor for mechs such as Prowl, Sideswipe, Swoop, and many other characters from the Generation 1 cartoon. Neil Ross. Neil Ross was the original voice actor for Springer in the G1 show and movie. He also played other characters in the G1 cartoon such as Sixshot, Bone Crusher, and Hook. Nick Roche. Nick Roche was an artist and author for the IDW comics, best well known for his trilogy series Last Stand of the Wreckers, of which he wrote and drew for. Alongside that, he also did art and writing for many other IDW comic series such as Last Bot Standing, More Than Meets the Eye, and Maximum Dinobots. More recently, he was a character designer on Transformers Earthspark, primarily designing characters such as Megatron, Tarantulas, and Thrash. Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures is the co-producer and distributor for many of the modern-day live-action films and series. Peter Cullen. Peter Cullen is best known as being the original voice actor for Optimus Prime in the Generation 1 cartoon and movie. He, much like Frank Welker, has gone on to reprise his role many times throughout the franchise, including in the live-action movies and Transformers Prime. He also provided the voice work for Ironhide. Saren Stone. Saren Stone was an artist for IDW Publishing, illustrating for the Windblade comics, and providing cover art for series such as Drift, Empire of Stone, and More Than Meets the Eye. They are one of the most popular Transformers artists in the fanbase today, or at least on my side of the fanbase, and still continue to do art with robotic characters of their own. Scatman Crothers. Scatman Crothers was the original voice for Jazz in the Generation 1 cartoon. Simon Furman. Simon Furman is one of the most prolific authors within the Transformers franchise, having written many different Transformers comics and for many different companies throughout the history of the franchise, getting his start on the original Marvel UK comics, and even providing writing for IDW Publishing later down the line. Now, in spite that Simon Furman is one of the most prolific writers in the fanbase, he is also one of the most infamous due to his distasteful view on female Transformers within the franchise. Most infamously, he is known for writing a forced sex change into Arcee's backstory in the IDW comics, which thankfully later was retconned, into her having a consenting transition from male to female, making her one of the first trans characters in the Transformers franchise. I believe also in some of the original Marvel comics, Simon Furman wrote, I believe it was also Arcee or Lita again, as being kind of forced to be made by an angry mob of feminists. It's wild. And while I'm unsure whether Simon Furman still holds these views today, you would hope not. This is why he's loathed by at least a good chunk of the fanbase. Skybound Entertainment. Skybound Entertainment is the current IP holder of the Transformers comic license, taking up the mantle after IDW Comics. They are currently writing their ongoing main series, The Transformers, as well as a tie-in comic called Void Rivals, which features appearances from Transformers characters throughout its run. Stan Bush. Stan Bush is a rock musician best known in the fan base for performing the songs The Touch and Dare from the original G1 movie. Another line that almost everyone in this fan base knows by heart: "You got the touch, you got the power, yeah, please don't get copyright struck." Steve Blum. Steve Blum is best known for his vocal work as Starscream on Transformers Prime, being one of the most well-beloved renditions of the character, as well as one of the most well-beloved vocal performances. He later reprises this role as Starscream in Transformers Earthspark, and has also provided voice work for other characters such as Shockwave in the War for Cybertron games, and Wheeljack in the Bumblebee movie. Susan Blue. Susan Blue is the original voice actress for RC in the G1 movie and cartoon. She later went on to reprise her role as RC in Transformers Animated, also providing voice work in other Transformers series such as Beast Wars as Transmutate. She also worked as a vocal director for Transformers Animated and Beast Wars. And another kind of ironic, iconic thing, very similarly to Darren Norris with Knockout, Susan Blue was one of the first queer creators to work in the franchise. Being a lesbian herself, her character also later becoming a lesbian in the IDW comics. Something about these Transformers, man. Something about these Transformers is making some people have their gay awakenings. Takara Tomy. Takara Tomy is a Japanese toy company that, alongside Hasbro, created the Transformers toy line and franchise. They were the original creators of the Diaclone and Microchanger toy lines, which eventually were rebranded into the Transformers, of which they are still the producers of the Transformers toy line to this day. They have also created for many other popular toy franchises such as Pokemon and Beyblade. Victor Caroli. Victor Caroli was the narrator in the original G1 cartoon. And that is the end of official artists, authors, and creators. Again, that was definitely not everyone who has ever worked in the Transformers franchise. There are a lot of names that more so are very important to me that I still didn't include on this list because they might only matter to certain people in this fanbase, e.g. me. People like Fred DeTassiore, James Monarca, Josh Burcham, and many other creatives in this franchise I just simply cannot put all in the list. It would be 5 million years long if I put every single frickin' person ever in this list. So I'm trying to just list some of the more well-known people known in this fanbase, as well as a good chunk of the original cast, so that this is, like I've intended, a good stepping stone for you to get further into the franchise and to learn more about all the other names that I haven't gone over. Maybe find some other creatives who I haven't found on this list that you wind up having a great affinity towards, whose work you love and or will love. There are plenty more Transformers creatives to check out throughout social media. Honestly, if you go through James Roberts' following, you will probably find a good chunk of people who have worked on Transformers in some capacity. So either scour their socials, go read the comics, watch the shows, pay attention to the credits, so that we can give our props to all of these wonderfully talented people who have created one of my favorite franchises to this day, because everyone deserves their cookies, even if I couldn't get to all of them. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will hopefully have the next one out sooner than this one, as well as another series that Editing Me is currently working on right now. Keep an eye on that. It may or may not be posted by now. If you liked this video and would like to see more from this series, absolutely check out my ABCs of Transformers playlist. Maybe hit that like button and subscribe button down there to follow me for the rest of this series, or for any other of my Transformers or nerdy content. But with all that out of the way, I hope you're having a good day, and remember, if not, I'm sending you spoons. Bye!